Welcome to Live Town Hall. My name is Michael A. Charbon with the mayor of the 9th largest city in Canada, Madam Mayor Linda Jeffrey. This is Madam Mayor's 6th appearance on Live Town Hall. Madam Mayor Jeffrey, thank you for being here, and
Nice
thank you
to
for
be here.
supporting Live Town Hall. Many people have come after you, but no one have equaled your grace.
Oh,
in
we're on
being
a
here.
roll tonight. I can feel it.
Oh,
It's going to be good.
But I thank you. I thank you for being here 6 times and for supporting this effort that both Live Town Hall and Brampton Focus is putting together. Your initial support and physical endorsement of being here and answering questions in this format is what really is the germane purpose of what we're doing. So I sincerely thank you for
Well,
that.
I thank you, and I thank the Brampton Focus for offering another forum for people to engage with City Hall and to find out what we're doing and to help me do a better job.
Helping you do better. Well, you're always under the gun, and you always sit up, as one would say, and answer the questions. Live Town Hall is an interactive show, and it's your participation that makes this possible. You can go to facebook.com/Linda Jeffrey. So you can go to Madam Mayor's website on Facebook, and you can post your question. I have a bunch of questions, but I'm going to get right to your questions first because I appreciate there's 3 people who've already posted questions. So we'll get right into the meat and potatoes because
Okay.
whenever we have a discussion, it always goes so fast. So Kevin would like to say, would you say that the recent tax increases reflect an investment in Brampton's future? I mean, you just had your capital budget
Yep.
just released. Would you say it's a reflection of an investment in Brampton's future?
We made what I believe is kind of a historic investment in transit, in firefighters, so that's public safety.
Yeah.
Those 2 are the biggest. One of the things many people don't know, if you're traveling around and you're not actually taking transit, you may not be thinking about how heavily it's used. We grew our transit by 17%, I think, in the last 5 years. There's nowhere else in Canada that it is growing at that rate. It is extraordinarily high. So certainly transit, firefighters, and a lot of we're also building a new fire campus, so we put an investment into that. That means our firefighters don't have to leave our city to be trained.
Right.
It's really important to have them trained close to home. We also put money away. We started the investment into Ryerson University. So I would say this puts us in a much better position to build on the infrastructure we have, maintain it, and be ready for that future growth.
Your investment in Zoom, you're going to have 31 new buses, 34 new Zoom rapid buses.
Yep.
And the statistics bear out that with the start of Zoom in 2009, it has increased in ridership by 88%. So 17% every year increase. That is quite an accomplishment.
And the nice thing is we have partners. We have partners at the provincial level and the federal level. So it really makes a difference if a municipality doesn't have to put all the money up front. When you have a partner that helps you buy the infrastructure like the buses, you can move your city much more quickly to getting better service, more rapid service, which gives you choices. You may just be deciding, should I buy that second car? Should I take transit to the GO station so I can get to work or to the bus station? This will give you some choices, which is good.
I think one of the things that is always in a case when it comes to transit is that it's never a profitable occasion.
No.
Even if you end up to be 55% or the maximum amount of usage, it still needs to be subsidized. You
Yep.
cannot equate profitability in a transit organization, but that's very impressive. 88% since 2008, and Zoom really is iconic to Brampton. So.
Yeah, it used to be called something else, but it has extraordinarily grown. And I just want to make sure everybody else knows nothing that we do is profit driven at the city. Almost everything we do is subsidized. It's cost recovery. We use the property taxes in order to build infrastructure and to provide services, but we're not making a profit.
Right. We'll get to some of those questions because we talk about debt financing. We talk
Yes.
about the gap, the infrastructure gap. But anyways, let's go to Amy Lynn. Amy Lynn asks, what kind of advocacy can Brampton women expect in regards to shelters for single women?
Well, this is an interesting conversation that you've raised. Thank you. It's something that a group of women came to see me about a few months ago. Certainly, I got involved in the youth shelter quite extensively in the last year, which has exceeded our expectations. The women's shelter and dealing with women who are in that vulnerable situation is something we're going to work on coming up in the next year. It's a regional responsibility. but it's certainly something that I care about. And I guess the challenge for me when we were dealing with the youth housing issue and managing a crisis for a young person, when I first started out as mayor, we didn't have a place for Brampton youth to go in Brampton. They had to go to Mississauga or Toronto or somewhere else when they were in the middle of a crisis. That shouldn't happen in a city of 600,000. You should at least have some of, yeah, we should have a safety net somewhere close to home. So whether it's a woman or a youth, we need to have those services, and it's something that you'll probably hear more about in the coming year. We're working on a homeless strategy, and part of that, that interim housing is something we're working on.
Narish asks, I hope the property taxes remain in reasonable limits. How are we placed among other cities in Ontario for municipal taxes? You raised, or the council raised municipal taxes 3.7%. Inflation is 1.2, so it's more than double 1.2. When you look at municipal taxes in Toronto or Mississauga, how does Brampton fare?
So it's really not fair to compare us to a city like Toronto that has revenue tools we don't have. They also, up until for almost a decade, they were having money that we sent in Brampton down in a pooling check to the City of Toronto. What we do as a city is try to manage our expenses so that we get good value for money for our residents, but we also look at that jurisdictional scan. How are we doing with other municipalities? There are things that we offer in Brampton that other cities don't.
So in a Etobicoke or a Scarborough, if we took that 600,000 population chunk, is there any way to evaluate the cost of being a homeowner in Brampton compared to a cost of being a homeowner in Toronto, and how I mean, it is a little more expensive in Toronto, of course.
It is.
But the percentage of raise that's coming.
So I would say that the City of Toronto has decided that they don't want to make some of those investments. Right. Again, they have different revenue tools than we do. Remember, the only revenue tools we have are property taxes, their user fees, and then any money we get from a federal provincial government. That doesn't give you a lot of wiggle room.
And debt financing.
And debt financing, which we are starting this year. We've never done that before. So we as a council had to make a decision about a service level. So in the City of Toronto, they have a different kind of snow clearing budget, and that's where they put some of their budget. We put it into seniors bus fares and other services. So each municipality is going to find a menu of services that they want to provide that their residents need or want, and they see as a pressure point. We as a council made a decision we needed to invest in infrastructure. The university was a huge driver, and we needed to deal with the growth. Transit is important. If you don't put the money in, the transit service suffers and people don't take it. So now we know people are using it, we're investing in it, people will have a better experience.
I had the opportunity to speak to Charles Scott, who is he's a filmmaker, he's an artist, he's a patron of the arts. He had some concerns that within the budget that was presented, there wasn't a real line item for the arts. And we're not talking about the sponsorship of the Rose Theatre and all the good things that they do, but he's reflecting upon the fact that an arts community, or a vibrant arts community, where we're talking sculpture, we're talking painting, we're talking glass blowing, we're talking fashion design, where there is a hub, it dominoes to other aspects. And he brought up the point that it should be a discussion point as we go into 2018, which is a municipal election, that it is a point that should be considered. What is your take on that? Because there really wasn't a piece in there for the arts community this time.
So Chuck Scott actually came and spoke to council on the evening that we deliberated on our budget. He spoke eloquently. He's right. We're not. We're not putting those kind of dollars in. And we're in the midst of doing a cultural master plan. He would like us to have made a decision before that cultural master plan is done. And I would say that it helps if you have a plan, that you've looked at all the variances that could be part of that ongoing strategy. We, as a council, decided we wanted to wait till that strategy is done before we decide how to invest. But he's right. It is an economic driver for our city. We haven't been putting the dollars in, but we as a city, I think we're getting to the point where we need to start looking at arts and culture in a different way.
You've got a bunch of developments. We encourage you to participate. Live Town Hall is an interactive show. You can go to facebook.ca/Linda Jeffrey. The mayor of Brampton is here answering your calls. My name is Michael A. Charbon. We're here till 8 o'clock and answering your calls. Or your questions. Calls, not call in. questions. So the strategic plan that the CAO presented, Harry Schlang, which I watched the presentation, very concise. The objectives that the council was presented by staff was comprised of 6 elements, and they called it a regional transportation connection, university, health partners, Riverwalk, urban centers, and a planning vision. The overall budget, your $70 million combined internal and external debt financing as we go into 2018. You have $677 million in a budget. This year is the first year that the city of Brampton is going to borrow money to debt finance some of these ventures. Yep. My question on behalf of several of the residents is, what is the exit strategy? Everybody can see how you're going to, you're smiling. It's either you're mad at me or you're kind of saying,
no, it's a good question.
No, the exit strategy, it's one thing, if you and I, if I was fortunate enough to be married to you and we had our $100 on our kitchen table and we had $120 worth of bills, that $20 had to come from somewhere. So either we take it out of next month's, or if we're going to borrow 20, we have to have an exit strategy that over the course of 20 months, we put $1 away to pay for it. I don't think many people in Brampton are questioning the fact that you want to debt finance to get some of this accomplished, because Brampton needs to take a bold step. But what's your exit strategy? How do you pay that off instead of consistently servicing the debt? Because Ontario has the second largest sovereign debt in the world, and we don't want to be the Ontario budget in Brampton.
I don't have a quick answer for you about how we're going to exit. We just got in, and we haven't even incurred the debt yet. My goal here is to be responsible. This is something that Jim McCarter talked about in his evaluation of how we moved forward from a financial perspective. I had hoped the council would invite Mr.
He suggested 5%.
Yeah.
It was because you have a $200 million gap.
Yeah.
You guys addressed 2%. In 10 years, there's still going to be almost $600 million.
So staff did recommend a 5% increase on the levy.
Right.
Now, we just didn't, as a council.
Killed.
Council just was like, this is dangerous territory to be in during an election year. The fact that we agreed to put $150 million into Ryerson University and Sheridan's application was a bold, brave thing to do.
Right.
We are now doing more bold, brave things because we see the opportunity. We see a city that's growing and needs those investments, whether it's fire services, whether it's transit. We need those infrastructure investments. And you cannot do it with the existing reserves that we have on tap.
But may I ask, though, you have about $600 million in reserve.
So there are different...
Why do you not have that? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but the question is said to me, if you have $600 million in a reserve, why are you debt financing to borrow? Would it not be more judicious to use some of that money now instead of delaying the... So
understand that some of those reserves create interest and that we rely on that interest. So that's the other piece of this.
So it's another money-making tool.
It's another money-making tool. So when we take some of the money out to do the university out of the legacy fund, we won't get as much interest as we had before, which we rely on. So we're also trying to find ways to more cost-effectively manage our resources. Again, Jim McCarter, the provincial auditor of Ontario, suggested we look at this route in future years. This is a future year where we considered it. We can do it with the region appeal. We can get a better deal financially. It's safer. It is a very safe financial instrument. Is it ideal? No, it isn't. But at the end of the day, in a high growth community, you have to make some of these investments and you have to do them early. The other thing that, part of those reserves are in the background for is when an opportunity presents itself provincially or federally, we have to match those funds. If you do not have the funds in your bank account, you're unable to match them. So for me, that's a great return on investment. And we have a number of projects, whether it's Riverwalk or any other, where we can match it and get 3-to-1 exponential growth coming back. So to me, that's good investment. And I think based on our financial rating that we're getting these days from Standard & Poor and others, we're doing the right things in the right order, and we're being fiscally prudent.
Okay. Sonia wants to know, what can be done about lowering auto insurance rates in Brampton? Why are they so high? They're twice as much as in Oakville and Kitchener. This is not acceptable. Sonia, it is an age-old question of a Bramptonian to the mayor. And your answer is?
Well, the province just announced something last week,
Yep.
and they're talking about dealing with fraud. They're talking about dealing with finding a way to not punish somebody for the postal code they live in, which should exactly be the way that your insurance is dealt with. It should be based on your driving record. The Premier of Ontario is coming to Brampton tomorrow. She's doing a town hall. I hope somebody asks her an auto insurance question, because although the province is moving on this file, they don't move fast enough for me. Auto insurance is an affordability issue. It needs to be more affordable, and my residents have not been treated fairly for years.
The auto insurance company, I've done many shows on this, base their evaluation of the cost of auto insurance on your postal code.
Yep.
And they take a circular area surrounding your postal code and take the average claims and accidents and incidents and use that as a variable, as a metric, and that's how they assess how your auto insurance is. And
that's how they have done it.
And
I think the province is trying to change it.
The auto insurance says that because of the nature of Bramptonian drivers and some of the fraud and things that have gone on before, it's more expensive because there's more going on.
But you know, I don't want to blame Brampton drivers. There's a lot of fraud in the system. There's a lot of people gaming the system. And I think that the province needs to look at other programs. There's something called First Chance, which is down east, has worked very well, helps new drivers, makes it more affordable. I've encouraged the province to look at that, pilot it in Brampton. But why are my residents being penalized for living in this city? Most people need a car, have to get back and forth to work. It's not an option. This is a requirement, and they need to have coverage. And they need the province to be part of making a fairer system.
Let's hope the Premier says something tomorrow that we're looking for. That. Steve wants to know, how's Brampton going to respond to the opioids crisis? I mean, devastating. It's just devastating.
It's pretty scary stuff. I actually went to Toronto last week and was sitting with the big city mayors. So Mayor Tory, the mayor from Calgary, the mayor from Vancouver, and the mayor from Vancouver is the one that Mayor Gregor spoke about the opioid crisis in his jurisdiction.
I've seen those.
It's really
I've seen those
startling.
Areas in Brampton. I've
now,
shot there.
In Peel, we don't have the same steep increase in deaths, but one death is too many. If it's somebody that you love and you care about. So I sit on the police services board, and not only police officers, but paramedics and other first responders have the naloxone kits, which can help people breathe again and be in a state fit to get to hospital to save their life. It's very scary. I think the challenge is the opioids are being mixed with other drugs. So somebody may be thinking they're just using something they recognize.
They've been mixing them with fentanyl, and
they're mixing other things, and it's a pretty dangerous time to be.
It's a deadly concoction.
Very scary. You know, it's something that certainly our first responders are trying to grapple with.
Amit wants to know, two big issues city needs to address are high property taxes and high auto insurance. What are your views on both? I think you answered the auto
I did the auto
question. What about high property taxes?
So one of the challenges...
3.7 now. It's been raised. Inflation is 1.2, so people are still going to have a hit. I think a $400,000 house, it's going up $126 or something like that.
I think we said from the average person it was about $80. So
right.
whatever it is, I get it. Nobody likes paying property taxes, period, whether they're higher or not, myself included. But what I need the public to understand is the city of Brampton has been really focused for the last 2 decades on building houses. Houses actually cost more money. We actually don't build enough business. If we build more business and economic development, it actually changes the balance of finances at the city of Brampton. So the more economic development and business we bring in, the lower your property taxes. That hasn't been a priority for this council. So when they talk about the 60-40 split, we're not there yet. We need to have a more economic, industrial type investment in our city. Ryerson will help with that, and other companies. Our proximity to the airport helps. Our location on the Super Innovation Corridor helps. The more business and economic development we can have, the lower your property taxes. That's what I'm working on.
You're watching Live Town Hall. My name is Michael A. Charbon with our guest, the Mayor of Brampton, Madam Mayor Linda Jeffrey. You can get your question in at facebook.ca/Linda Jeffrey. So you can go right to Madam Mayor's website on Facebook and post your question. I've been stopped twice and I've been asked to ask this question. Harry Schlang, who was the CAO and was responsible for presenting the current capital budget. Yep. One of the things that he stated in his preamble in presenting the budget was that the City of Brampton, and I quote, is committed to ensuring value for taxpayers while continuing to invest prudently for the future. Two people have approached me and said, Brampton Beast, my God, $1.5 million, $500,000 over 3 years. It ends next year. When you reflect back on that, Madam Mayor, does that really look like it was a prudent investment? Was it really a commitment to ensuring value? I mean, I had to ask, I promised I would ask the question. I mean, how do you respond to that person who says, you know, I have enough problems trying just to pay for daycare, never mind supporting Brampton Beast? Not that I have anything against hockey. I love hockey, but...
I love hockey too. I think it depends on who you ask on council. Mm-hmm. Some members of council who voted for this, I'm going to use the word bailout, thought it was a good idea and it was a good investment in the City of Brampton. I don't happen to share that opinion. I didn't think it was a good decision then. I still don't think it's a good decision. In fact, in the budget that we voted on last week, Councillor Gurpreet Dillon separated this item out of our budget so we could vote on it separately. So we had a recorded vote. I think 3 people thought it was a bad idea. And we again said, showed our distress with this decision and voted against it.
But the city owns the Powerade Centre, right?
Yep.
So the main tenant of the Powerade Centre is the Brampton Beast.
Yep. And at the end of the day, the person who owns the Brampton Beast is
an independent entrepreneur.
He's a millionaire.
Well, regardless what his financial stature is.
It matters to me.
He's an independent entrepreneur.
Okay. But I'm not in the business of supporting millionaires. Yep. My job is to be someone who advocates for my city and gets the best bang for the buck. This wasn't a good bang for the buck. I don't know that it involved in, I think our whole goal, or the majority of council who voted for this, thought this was a good idea because it would bring sponsorship and investment in our city. Mm-hmm. I have no evidence that this has achieved that purpose.
Well, I mean, one would say that it was positive efforts, but $1.5 million, it's definitely upset some people, some would say.
Yeah.
Sean says, is it too late to build Brampton's infrastructure since it is already built out? I mean, Gurpreet Dillon was one of those people who was talking about dedicating some lands to build business. I mean, I've had the opportunity to sit down with Councillor Dillon and talk about his aspirations to build a business. Is there still lots of infrastructure that can be created in Brampton?
We have the most undeveloped land in the GTA. That is a selling feature. And we have, I think, the infrastructure is not our selling, it's not our calling card. Our calling card is skills. We have skilled residents here in Brampton. Wherever I go, and I just came back from a one-day trip to New York City with the Toronto Global Group, where we went down to talk about health and life sciences and others. The company that I will have come visit me in the first quarter of the year, they want skilled individuals. That's why we were able to put the bid together for Amazon, skilled individuals. That talent pool is what Brampton is known for. It's why we're successful. It's why we're going to be successful. The infrastructure is a nice bonus, but all these businesses want talent, and they will go to the ends of the earth to get it. And the fact that Ryerson is going to put their campus here in our city, work with Sheridan, is changing the whole conversation. The fact that everybody knows it's coming to the downtown, people are interested. They want to invest here. They see the opportunity. The infrastructure will follow. But if you don't have the skilled talent pool in your city, I got a young community, average age of 35, diverse. They have friendships and relationships with people all around the world. They're already well educated. Those 3 make this a dynamic city that's easy for me to sell elsewhere.
Well, Badar Shamim was in Brampton Board of Trade. I had occasion to speak with him. He was talking about the contingent from Turkey that came here to Brampton, and he basically was emblematic of the same position that you're talking about. That countries and people are coming to Brampton because the people are here. The key, I find, and I was going to say this to you anyways at the outset, we now, here we are in December. 2018 is an election, so we call that silly season. All the municipal gears of politics and politicians and, oh, I'm going to run and I'm going to do this and, oh, I'm not going to run, and all the BS that's going around with like little peacocks with their feathers all up and everything.
What do you mean?
Yeah, no, but I mean, you can feel it. You can cut the tension because everybody's waiting for January 1st to go to City Hall, and I'm running. Are you?
They can't until May now.
Oh, is it? I thought it was
no,
first.
they changed it. So the silly season will move
But
a little bit.
there's still all this motion going.
yeah.
There's still people talking. There's still
posturing.
people positioning and posturing. And when you look at all that, there seems to be a key component. It was to cost $406 million. It was supposed to be given by the province of Ontario, and it's called the LRT. And I wonder, do you think that may possibly resurrect itself? I mean, it can't be in discussion in this term of council,
No.
but with Ryerson University coming, and we won't talk about the two ill-conceived routes that they spent $1.5 million that was already, but far for me to mention that.
No, we're looking at $4.4 million to study those two other
routes that are already declined.
Yes.
So if we use our magic wand and try to join Madam Mayor Bonnie Crombie and join here Ontario to link it to the Ruddy Go station, which is just north of City Hall, far be it for me to be a magician, but do you think that that's going to possibly be an election issue?
I would be shocked if it wasn't.
Really?
I don't know how transit couldn't be part of that conversation going forward. It makes sense. And if you look along here Ontario, look at the Amica investment that's just north of Shoppers World. What a wonderful, elegant, showcase building that is along the route that could have been where the LRT would have traveled.
Yep.
There's an opportunity to build. And if you look anywhere along Mississauga, everywhere along their route, the
Huge.
value of the properties has gone up. There's more opportunities for affordable housing. All of those opportunities will not be happening north of Steeles for Brampton. It's a shame.
In this calendar year.
In this term of
In
office.
this term of office,
In
right?
this
And
term
as
of
we venture into
But again,
20,
we don't have the money. So even if we have the conversation, the money that was available from the province of Ontario is no longer there.
in my humble purview of watching the budget being presented, I heard one council member who shall remain nameless asking if they've investigated if there were some grants and some money from the province that was available for transit. And far be it from me to say, really? But really?
Yeah.
Anyways, okay, let's go on. Well, that was fun. Do you think that $1.5 million, we just answered this question, would have been better spent on local sports teams and perhaps building a cricket or a kabaddi fields? Well, the one thing here is, at least with a kabaddi field, the population that's in Brampton would be there all the time. You probably would have had a better bet on that.
I think that there are still opportunities. So, so the fact that that money isn't available, it's water under the bridge.
Yep.
It's done.
Yep, it's
and
done.
you
I
need to
agree.
look forward. And I'm always looking for opportunities to find a way to keep my young athletes here. We do very well. We had a Brampton native just bring home a very special soccer trophy
Yep.
on the weekend. That was outstanding. We have
Entertainers.
We
You
have
I mean,
entertainers.
there's so much of
we have
yes.
so many athletes from Brampton, whether they're basketball players, whether they're track and
We'll
field
celebrate
athletes.
the arts, which was at the Rose Theatre. How many of those professional
Wonderful.
artists and singers and performers?
We got a lot of talent here.
Yep.
We got to find ways to keep them here because they can't shine here because we don't have some of the venues. So I can assure people who are watching today, we are looking at cricket, kabaddi, soccer, all the ways that we can find a way to keep you here and have your children shine.
Holly says, I don't understand the increase in new hires outside of fire services and transit. I thought city staff was purged. However, it appears staff costs and numbers continue to rise. Is this really necessary? When we look at your capital budget, we have 678 million, rounding off. Almost 392 million is labor, and 286 million is other. Very heavy in labor. Holly asks a question. I mean, I think someone said that they saved what, $4.5 million. I think Harry said economies of scale and saving and working hard. How do you react to Holly's question?
I think that we had some so we've been at our budget for months. This didn't happen just one evening.
Right.
And we had the public come in to talk to us.
20,000 people actually commented, which I take my hat off to you and Harry, who actually came out and really reached out to the community, because that's a huge number of people to comment on a budget.
Yeah, budgets are hard to describe. You know, they're not sexy. They take a long time to do, and the numbers are they're much bigger than your household budget. But I think what we were trying to do was put a group of people, certainly fire and transit, were important to put in, but also we put in a team of people that are going to help us with basement apartments and accessory units.
Yeah, I had that here. It was interesting. The fire department actually made, I think it was 177 visits last year, and of those, and that was just for illegal basement apartments. So you're actually putting a team together,
Yep.
and but I don't know if that's. I would suggest that Holly's comment is more from a corporate standpoint.
So at the end of the day, I think I've explained this before, there are two sides to the city. There's the elected side and there's the bureaucratic side.
Right.
The elected side sets policy, and we tell one person,
Harry.
our CAO, Harry Schlang, this is what we want you to do.
Actually, he's the only employee of council.
He's
Is
the
that correct?
only employee of council, and we give him a performance appraisal, and I think we drive him crazy, so he wants to pull his hair out. But at the end of the day, that's all we do. We set policy. We don't get into the operations of who gets hired and who doesn't get hired. Council used to do that, but I'm trying to pull them back. It's not
So he
professional.
does the plumbing. So
He does everything in the
Right.
bureaucracy, and he determines the right layers. But almost, I would say, a good 80 or 90% of the police services is salaries and wages. Is not much different from the city of Brampton. We have a little more of equipment, where it's snow plows and fire trucks and recreation centers. But at the end of the day, our strength at the city of Brampton is our staff, is our people who help you get a job done, who give you an answer to your question. We have some great staff. There has been some turnover. There has been some flattening of the organization. We've had some savings. But this is about making our staff, our city hall, nimble, future ready, responsive, interested in making sure the residents get the service they need in the time that they need it.
do you think that the elimination of certain staff positions, just because of knowledge base, continuity, fulfillment of commitments, has hurt the city a little bit? I'm not going to give specific names, but there
No.
are some people that have left that they left a huge gap.
Yeah, you know, it's hard. A friend of mine, I consider a staff member, a friend who just retired, and I feel really sad that she left. She did a great job. She just retired, and to have somebody new in that job, it is disconcerting. But Harry went in to try and flatten the organization. There were lots of layers between decision making and the residents, and decision making and our politicians.
Yeah.
There were too many people, too many layers of people. He's trying to flatten the organization. I think we're in a better place than we were before. I think that, sure, it's hard. There's people that I remember when I left the city who were still there when I came back, and when they left, it was disconcerting. But I think it's our job to do a good job for the residents of Brampton, and sometimes it is challenging. Sometimes somebody's in a position and they've been there a long time, maybe they need to find a new job.
Yep. Fresh.
My challenge is, when I came back to the city after being at the province for over 10 years, people were like, well, we've always done it that way. Well, I got elected
That's
on
one
a
of the worst
message
statements.
of, it's terrible. I wanted to disrupt the status quo. That's what I'm here for. And you know what? Sometimes I make people uncomfortable. Sometimes I say things that former council members don't like to hear. My job is to represent my residents, to work hard, to speak the truth to them, and to do the heavy lifting that they expect and require me to do as their mayor.
You're watching Live Town Hall. We're halfway through, 34 minutes approximately into Live Town Hall. Madam Mayor Linda Jeffrey, the Mayor of Brampton, is here. You can post your question at facebook.ca/Linda Jeffrey and put your questions and we'll put them on air. Next question. What is the city doing to bring a third hospital to Brampton? Sand, where would it go, V? I don't know what that means, but...
They had spell check help them.
I hate that auto spell.
It happens to me all the time.
What's the city... Never do that when you're not talking to someone who's not your wife, because then it gets really messy.
It could go very bad.
What is the city doing to bring a third hospital to Brampton? I'll leave that at that.
So we had a very interesting month last, not December, but November. I think probably everybody knows that I wrote a letter, a public letter to the residents and really to the province of Ontario to voice my concern.
Yep.
I have a dad who's been really sick.
Anybody listen?
Yes. So I've had a dad that was really sick all year, and I've been in and out of the hospital multiple times because he's pretty frail. And I could see things were starting to deteriorate. And people were saying, what are you doing? What are you doing? At the end of the day, healthcare is a provincial responsibility. It's not a municipal responsibility. And I know that people say, well, that's just an easy way out. It isn't.
No, it's reality.
But the finances, I don't have any healthcare dollars anywhere in my budget. What cities do is help plan and advocate. So that's what I did. I wrote a letter on a Friday, and on the next Thursday, we had Minister Hoskins at Peel Memorial announcing more beds at Peel Memorial, and
it was like 8 beds or 10 beds, wasn't it?
no, it was about 37 by the time we were finished, but he's also talking about the second phase, which will be 100 beds at Peel Memorial. In that letter,
So
I
there's
also, there's lots of hope. I also spoke about the need for a third hospital. I was surprised that the head of William Osler and the head of the LIN, the Central West Health Integration Network, which is a long name for the people who do the finances with the hospital, hadn't really talked about that third hospital. We as a city hadn't designated an area. So there is a motion now that council has approved and endorsed that is sending our staff away to look in the west side of the city to find that third hospital site and to reserve it now.
That's good. That's wonderful news. Well, you heard it here. That's great news. Well, that could be another one of those poignant election points as we slowly shovel snow into 2018.
It's a good thing. I mean, at the end of the day, we're a city that keeps growing.
You got 600 million. You're going to have what, 900 million in what, 4 years, 4 years, 5 years? I mean, the scale.
It's 100,000.
4 people move to Brampton every day.
Yeah.
That's the stat that I read.
People want to be here. And it's a cool place to be, and it's going to get cooler by the day. As soon as Ryerson gets here with their campus, there's a whole bunch of other things I can't tell you about right now, but the next time you invite me, maybe I can. But there are investments and some really interesting career opportunities for people in the future that are coming, and stay tuned.
Sebastian wants to know, he's dying for a dog park close, and is it in the cards in the 2018 budget? Gail said she would propose it if to be approved. So I suggest it's Gail Miles he's talking about.
Could be. I don't know.
Dog parks, is that how does one get a dog park near their house?
I would talk to my local city and regional counselor, find out what the Parks and Rec Master Plan has indicated for your community, because at the end of the day, we just finished a Parks and Rec Master Plan, which guides us like a strategic plan for the next 15 years, where we're going to make investments in recreation, what facilities we're going to upgrade.
You're doing 2 recreation centers, right?
We're doing a few.
Howden, Chris Gibson, and Balmoral. That was part of your budget thing. I think that's fabulous. Yeah,
we're going to do some more. And at the end of the day, recreation is changing. We have people that are swimming more or skating more. We have more seniors that want to use recreation centers. But part of that plan was park development. Have a conversation with your local counselor to find out what the plans are. It could have been in the budget. It just wasn't something that came to mind for me.
$72 million was invested in these 2 recreational facilities. As I said, Howden, Chris Gibson, and Balmoral. That's a large dollar figure.
Yep.
How does that break down?
I have no idea. At the end of the day, we have...
That's not a gotcha question. I just wonder how you get to that number when you talk bricks and mortar.
So something we do is we have people who provide asset management plans. So that essentially prioritizes your facilities, how old they are, how much upkeep they need, whether they need a new roof, whether they meet any health and safety requirements, whether they meet any accessibility opportunities as well. So some of our buildings need upgrading from that perspective.
Right.
They're not accessible. So staff come in, they give us an appraisal, and that's likely how they come to that number, whether it's a new roof, whether it's plumbing that needs to be upgraded. A lot of our buildings are 25 years and older, and just like at home,
Yep,
you
they need to be serviced.
fix the windows, or you need to repair the shingles, or you need to put in a new furnace. We at the city need to do the same.
I listened with interest when you were in council, Madam Mayor. You talked about tools and taxes on travel. And I thought that was an interesting point. I mean, I've traveled extensively in my life as a television producer. And when I would go to London, there would be a VAT tax.
Yep.
Interestingly enough, you brought up a tool that I think council is going to consider. I don't think a motion has been passed as of yet.
We send our staff away to go and do some homework.
So 22 states in the United States have a lodging tax. So for instance, if you're in Mississippi or Georgia, in Georgia you pay $5 a night,
Yep.
which is just outside people who come in and it's tapped on. In Portland, for instance, it's $22 a day. You can levy this tax on car rentals, 33 states in the United States. So if you have a small, hotel or car rental business that is close to the airport, there is a levy that is attached specifically as a monetary generating tool. That's an interesting concept.
Yeah, they were doing something in Toronto, and I read about it, and I was like, wonder if Brampton can do it. And it really is about taking your MPAC assessment and creating a new class. I'm trying to think outside the box. I'm trying to find ways that we can leverage other sources of revenue that don't immediately hit all my residents all the time. So we'll see what the report comes back with.
Your piece of the gas tax, does that ever end? Is there a sunset clause in that?
Not yet. I don't know. I
Don't
think,
look at me like that.
Well, I guess at the end of the day, the province could make another decision in a new government. They could make a different decision. But I'm not sure that they would. I think that whether it's a large municipality or a small northern or rural, they really rely on that gas tax for transit. And we would have a hard time producing the kind of great transit system that we have if we didn't have those resources.
Vidya asks, does this team really have any idea of lean methods in service? I suggest she's talking about budget and corporate. How do you answer a person's question like that when they look at some of the salaries that some of the people are making, and it's above and beyond what one would say is minimum wage by any stretch, and they see their property taxes going up, and they think of the fat cats down at City Hall? How do you? I mean, that there is a thought out there that presents that, right?
So I think there's two things you're asking. One of them is the Lean Six type methodology where you evaluate programs all the time. That's what we're doing at the city. There are some people that are trained in those methodologies, and they come in and they evaluate all of our programming. The second is what kind of a talent base that we have at the city, and whether they know what they're doing at their job, and whether they're providing value for money. I would say that I am very impressed with the quality of the individuals doing the job at the City of Brampton. We have a ton of people that work for minimum wage, who work in our recreation centers and who help your children with gymnastics or swimming. They work with families across the spectrum to deliver great quality service. They help teach your child to swim or to dance or play soccer. Those are the individuals who are on the front lines,
Yes.
managing and doing a great job for us, and we're extremely proud of them. We thank them for their service. And there's a lot of other individuals. We've got a lot of new people coming in from all over the world who come and work at the City of Brampton. I'm proud of that, and to be honest, I want us to be an employer of choice. I want the best and the brightest to come to the city, and I want everyone to feel that they could work at the city. Because before I came, there was a sense out there that if you wanted a job at the city or if you wanted a contract at the city, you needed to know someone. It should never be like that. We want the best and the brightest and the best contracts to be offered, the most cost-effective, delivering the best service.
So back to Vidya's question, lean methods in service. Is that an iconic statement that is like on the walls when you walk into City Hall?
I don't know that we need to. I mean, I treat taxpayers' dollars like they're mine because they are mine. I try to spend
Well,
it
you
as if I
reduced your
would.
fee by what, 50,000 a year, right?
My salary went down the first year by 50,000,
Yep.
the second year by
And
50,000,
how
the
much so
third.
far? So it's 150
It's
grand?
about 185 with all the benefits. And
Yep.
then when council decided to give itself a 7,000 or 7% increase, I said no to that too. I'm serious about doing things differently. I'm here to disrupt the status quo, to challenge decisions, to ask our staff to do better with less. They are. We're achieving results. Again, Harry's only been with us a year. He's made some changes. You're going to see more changes as we go forward, but you've got to be patient. We didn't get here overnight. We're not going to get out of where we are overnight.
I have an anonymous question here. What is your onion, which is probably opinion, on the potential purchase of Riverstone Golf Course for a senior center? I have no idea what that is about.
So this is an issue that will be on our council agenda tomorrow. There will be a public portion of it, and there will be an in-camera portion of it, and we'll have more to say about it tomorrow.
Okay, I have no idea what that's about. Militas says, start in the House with reducing councillor salaries. Will the new council in 2018 be able to give themselves a pay raise, or are you doing something to prevent that from happening? We touched on that. So what about when council wants to vote itself a pay raise? Can you, do you have executive privilege? Can you stop it?
I have no veto power.
You have no veto power.
No veto power. I think John
municipal
Tory has a few more
politics
powers.
sometimes is full of.
Yeah, I should have veto power.
Well,
yes, I should be able to do.
No, okay, well.
I should
there
have
be-
power.
no, but there should be. We as people vote someone as a mayor.
Yep.
And we vote someone to represent us, either regionally or.
So what I try to do is, I try to be a
Are you
good
going
role
to be a
model.
whistleblower? I mean, because if they're going to start to vote this, that you're looking at me with.
So
these-
let me answer the question. At the end of the day, I try to be a good role model. And what I did at the beginning of the term was
pretty
to set the
evident.
table.
Right.
Reduce my salary by 50,000. I think it's wrong for councillors to raise their salary in the year that they are in office. If you decide you think you're worth more, do it for the next term of office and put your name on the ballot. Don't do it while you're in office. This council did do that. I think it was the wrong thing to do. I think it's a question you need to ask your local city and regional councillor when they come to the door. What do you promise? Will you raise your salary in the next term of office, and hold them accountable?
So I've got to ask, it's probably a question out of school. Were there any councillors who were against the pay raise? And was it a recorded vote?
I believe it was a recorded vote, and I don't believe there was anybody against it. My recollection is I was, but what I did is I made an extra motion that said that I wouldn't be part of that increase. So I had to, and council surprisingly all supported that.
So conceivably a councillor
Yes.
could take that same position to
Yes.
say that
Yes.
I pledge that
Yes.
if I am re-elected in 2018, that I will not take a pay raise and I will take a cut like the mayor. They have that option, right?
Always.
Good. Well, I'm just making
Always.
sure.
No, they can always
Yeah,
do
no.
that. I guess at the end of the day, it's a great question to ask in this next municipal election.
Well, we're getting to that silly season, you know?
Well,
It's,
you know, at the end of the day, it's not just the mayor that sends a vision.
No, I
It
mean,
should be each councillor that says
Madam
what they
Mayor,
believe they should be doing in their own neck of the woods.
you put your money where your mouth is, and there's something to be said about that. $31 million for the downtown reimagined initiative. So many people have had so many ideas of how they reimagine. We have New Brampton. We have all these other organizations who are philanthropy, developers, real estate people, architects. They're all coming. We know what we want to do. How do you filter through all that? And you got $31 million. There's going to be something that's going to happen that's going to make Brampton that vibrant downtown. How do you proceed with something? I mean, to me, that looks like just a huge undertaking.
It is, and it's not just the city. It's the city and the region, because there are underground services that we need to provide to the businesses in the downtown that are there now and the businesses that will be there in the future. And the conversation we're having with Ryerson and as to where they will locate will also impact what our downtown will look like. One of the things I experienced when I was running for office is I listened to a man called Gil Penalosa. He came and spoke at the Rose Theatre. He's part of a group called 8 and 80. And I was like, what does that mean? 8 and 80 is a name of an organization that makes cities that are cycle and pedestrian friendly for 8-year-olds
Oh,
old
yes.
and 80 years
80-year-olds.
old.
Yes, yes.
And he imagined what our downtown could
Yeah, it
look
would look
like.
like, yeah.
Pedestrian friendly, wide sidewalks, lots of lighting, feeling safe walking your downtown.
Trees.
Very, not as car friendly as it is now. It is a very challenging place to walk in our downtown right now. Lots of cobblestones, and if you have heels, and I know you don't,
No, ma'am.
it is hard to walk in. If you have a stroller, it's hard to walk in. If you're in a wheelchair, it is hard to walk in. It's not wide enough. It's not well lit. The buses get very close to the side of the streets and, in fact, cut off the corners near our transit terminal. We need to reimagine our transit terminal so that it's easier to get in and out of. It's safer for pedestrians, and it is a great place for our student body that comes to Brampton.
Speaking of which, there was a decision that was delayed with regards to the university till January. Any reason why? Do we know why?
I know why. It's so one of the
I know why.
So one of the challenges is for the province. They're
Right.
dealing with 2 municipalities that want a university. So Milton, this is their second kick at it. It's a greenfield site. They already had their partner. This is the second application they put in. This is actually Brampton's first successful application. City put in an application before, but it wasn't with the right partner. This time we're doing something very unique. We're doing it in a downtown dense core. We want to find a way to combine it with transit and other private partners.
Transit. Wow, there's
Transit.
that LRT
Imagine,
word again.
imagine.
how
So-
that would
so
work.
this is a more
Does it start at
complex-
Steele's? No, sorry.
It's going to be a much more complicated, cool structure. It won't be just one. And we at the city want to be partners. So that $150 million that is going into what that university campus will look like, it's not one building. It's a group of buildings. It's a great student experience, but it'll be great for the city and all of our residents. It'll have a library. It'll have recreation
Sounds like
facilities.
you guys have already made this decision. You just haven't released it
It's
yet.
coming. It's coming.
You've
but
got that look.
So
You see, you got
all
that
I can
look.
tell you is Christmas is not just going to be in
Okay.
December. There'll be more to come.
So
We're
we'll have
working
an
with the
announcement in
province.
January, which will put a bow on this.
It'll
right?
be when the province makes the announcement, and I'm fine with it.
Okay.
It's good.
Faz has a question. Why is the city's economic development budget flat for the next 3 years? Shouldn't economic development in the city be a top priority so that we can attract businesses, stop the outflow of workers every day, increase commercial tax revenue, make the downtown and Queen Corridor a vibrant place for residents, and accelerate rapid transit? Fazil, you should run for politics. That's a big question.
That is, and
So let's just unpack the first part here. Economic development budget is flat for the next 3 years. Is that true?
I don't know. I haven't really followed where budgets are going. What I can tell you is we have 4 specialists in economic development now, one in health and life sciences, one in advanced manufacturing, one in innovation. I'm trying to think. I think the other one is the food sector. I think all 4 of them are new to the city. They're very smart. They have great credentials, and they've worked in other industries that are actually bringing people into the city of Brampton. I don't know if you need to spend more money. I think what you want to do is target the money that you spend, and they get the right people. So one of the things we learned on the last trip I did to New York, the day trip that I went, I took Martin Bowl. He's from our economic development office. Smart young man. We used to work at the province, a go-getter. And we actually met with a company that does computing and analytics for pharmaceutical companies on their profit sharing. This guy, we met with the chair of the board, the owner of the company. We had over an hour with him. We actually extended the time we had with him. He is, I think, the top 100 of all of the companies in New Jersey. He's actually talking about coming to Brampton to develop a Canadian footprint. The work that we did before we got there is what that expert does for the city of
That's
Brampton
economic
in economic
development. That's
development.
invisible work
That's what they
behind
do.
the scene.
They do
yeah.
a lot of work at the front end,
Yep, heavy
and
lifting.
then the hard part is the follow-up.
Close the deal.
If you don't follow up and if you don't have those conversations, one of the things we did when we were down in New York is we met with the Consul General. And it was interesting to me that actually people in New York do not know Toronto. What a shock, because I thought Toronto was the center of the universe. They don't. Actually, they know Montreal better than they know us. I know that hurts. And John Tory was
I was
sitting there
born
when,
in Toronto.
when we had the
I'm a Toronto
conversation.
Maple Leafs fan. Just so I just
I
want you to
won't
know.
hold that against you.
Thank
But
you.
at the end of the day, we learned that we need to do a better job in selling what we have at the City of Brampton, and that we need to go back multiple times to seal the deal. Because no one's going to come to Canada to invest in Brampton unless they know what they're coming for, that they know that they've got a place, a skill set, a skilled group of people that will help them with their business. The connections that make it work, whether it's an airport or a rail,
Yeah.
those things are all part of how we educate someone elsewhere. Our economic development team is doing that, and I think they're doing it very well, and I think you need to be patient. They haven't actually asked for more resources, and I think they're doing a good job, and if they need it, we can. Budget isn't once a year. We talk about the budget at every meeting.
Well, it's a little fluid too. I mean,
It's always-
you can take and
we can
give
move
and
things
take, right?
around as we need them.
About 6 minutes left. You're watching Live Town Hall with Madam Mayor Linda Jeffrey, the Mayor of Brampton. You can reach us at facebook.ca/Linda Jeffrey. Linda Jeffrey's Facebook page. Post your questions. If your question does not make it on the show, Madam Mayor's staff and the Mayor herself will take a look at those questions, direct you, and answer the questions, as she has done 6 times previous, and I will vouch for her following through. When is the announcement for the university going to come?
Next year,
2018, right?
2018.
We're days away.
I'm
Okay.
hoping it's the first quarter of 2018.
Bill asks, I believe this is the right person for the job, but as long as there's such a divisiveness in council, very little will be accomplished. And what about term limit? Well, interesting. We had a little chat before we came on the air. What about term limits? Is there a certain time when you say, thanks a lot, time for a change? I mean, is that something you would consider?
So term limits are determined by the province
Look
of
at
Ontario.
you. Look at, I love it.
Just saying.
No, just
and
true.
it used to be my job as the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing. That was an issue that was raised multiple times. Do you know who gets to decide term limits?
No,
The voter.
I'm afraid.
The voter.
Oh,
You get to
okay.
decide. So if someone keeps putting their name on the ballot and you're happy with them, great. If you're not, get out and vote. When 30% of the electorate get out to vote for municipal elections, and I don't know, 50, 60% vote provincially and federally,
Yep.
what is the difference? There's so much more that we do at the municipal level that affects you daily, whether it's how quickly the fire truck comes to you, how quickly the bus comes to the end of the street, when the snow gets cleared, when the grass gets cut, and whether you can skate at your local arena. Those, to me, are quality of life issues. Make sure you have the right person for the job.
So as we slowly put a bow on this, the next time we shall meet will be next year in 2018. When you look over your shoulder, when you look back in the 3 years, first term as a mayor, coming in a bit of a hoopla when you got elected. There was lots of stuff going around. You came in, you said you were going to be transparent. You said you were going to make some changes.
Yep.
As you look to the voter now for some would say a report card of your job as mayor, and you look for their vote and their endorsement in 2018, I would suggest you're running.
Yes,
Probably.
I am. Yes.
So if you were to give us a little bit of I can understand the good. Is there something that you wish you could have done? Is something that you wish could have happened differently? I mean, there's lots of good, and I get that.
Yep.
But it's always looking at what you could have done and what you may do. I mean, if you're going to look ahead now at 2018, I mean, what would you say? What kind of a mark would you give yourself?
So mayors run on a 4-year cycle, and I'm not anticipating beyond that 4-year cycle. I have a contract that the residents of Brampton gave me with a very strong mandate to do things differently. I continue to try and do that, and the good projects aren't done. So I'm focused on, and I don't care about report cards. I go to work every day trying to do the best that I can, and when opportunities present themselves, I try to seize them. I try to make sure that we chase them. I'm hungry for it. I want more jobs. I want more economic development. I want more fun opportunities. I mean, I talked about during the election that I had a fantasy about on a Friday, Saturday night of people sitting around the table or the living room saying, hey, let's go do something fun. Let's go to Brampton. And people snickered when I said that. I don't know that they're going to be feeling that way over the next 5 to 10 years. This city's changing. It's ready for change. It's young. It's dynamic. It has great bones. It has all the right ingredients. It needs the right leadership that cares about it, that works beyond 9 to 5, and that wants to make sure better healthcare is here, that the university is successful, that we attract the private partnerships that will make that university experience even better. It's about building strong relationships with the province, with the federal government, with our neighboring municipalities, because business and residents actually don't care where the boundaries are. They just want to get to where they want to go.
The council is your critical partner.
Yes.
And some have said that you've had difficulty with this council in this term.
I think
that there have been some blockages. There's been a little bit of pain. Is there going to be some hemorrhaging, do you think? Is it, because there's always politicians that will come and seek the support of the mayor to work with the mayor.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be
I hope so.
I hope so.
But again, Michael, remember, of 11 members, 7 councillors were new. And some of those new ones like to do things differently. And that's okay. I think debate is healthy. There are times when council speaks with one voice, like we did on the university. We've done that on governance. Some of the really big issues, we have spoken with one voice. Other issues, we don't. And that's okay. What my job is to present a vision, some new ideas on the table. For example, I suggested we try internet voting this next election. Council didn't like the idea. They weren't ready for it. I'm here to try some new things. And you know what? If I make mistakes, that means we're moving forward.
Yeah.
I try to not make expensive mistakes, but I want to try new things because I think my residents, the people who are my boss want me to try new things. I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to keep working on that, and I'm focused on completing the contract that the residents of Brampton gave me. I'm not going to speculate on who's going to run and who's not going to run.
That wasn't my question.
I know, but a lot of people want me to kind of figure out who the team is.
No.
What I try to do is mentor some of the new councillors to give them, champion them. I know there are issues, like I sat with them before the city hall started to sit, when I was kind of neither fish nor fowl, not sworn in, but I am a mayor, to say, what are your dreams? What are your visions? How can I help you? Because at the end of the day, I need a succession plan. I need a council that looks like Brampton, that cares about Brampton, that has the right royal jelly. It takes a special kind of person who wants to be a politician. You want to be able to get somebody who doesn't care about the clock and that does the job because they love it and they care about their residents. Not everybody does that job the same way. I'm an impatient person. I like to get things done quickly. When I can see that there's an opportunity to move the yardstick forward, I try to do that. And I admit that there has been challenges to move things forward, but we have achieved a lot. We put in the right tools in place, whether it's accountability, transparency, whether it's taping our in-camera meetings, bringing in the Auditor General, getting the Ombudsman to look at how we do procurement. These are all steps in making our city stronger, better, a place that we're proud to call home.
Well, I think you ended it on a nice tone. And I must say, in all the reading that I've done and the budgetary things that are on the forefront, university and all these other plans that your council and you have put together, I think the next 4 years, 2018, is going to be very exciting for the city of Brampton. So I want to wish you Merry Christmas. Thank you so much for being here for your 6th time. Thank you for participating. Live Town Hall depends on you. Thank you to Brampton Focus, which is Paul Vicente, Don McLeod, and Fazil Khan for making this broadcast possible and putting your questions forth. If you have any questions, you didn't make it to the show, put it on facebook.ca/Linda Jeffrey, and the mayor's team and the mayor will answer your questions. My name is Michael A. Charbon. Thanks for spending your time with us, and you have a good evening.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.